As a child, I yearned for the mines. Wait, what the fuck is up with
Chicken Jockey?
Oh god, no. As a child, I was mostly left to my own whims, browsing YouTube and other websites with reckless abandon, and with no supervision. Or in other words, I was spoiled, but neglected. And as a result of the previously mentioned lack of supervision, I developed interests. I won't go into too graphic detail here, for your sake, but I'm pretty sure that as this story goes on, you can figure it out. A few more years later, I was becoming increasingly sheltered, almost never leaving the house unless it was for something my parents deemed absolutely necessary. My parents told me I was going to be a brother. I should have felt excited, crying with joy, but mostly I was just dumbfounded. It was a surreal thing for me to grasp the reality of back then. And when he was born, my parents named him. Well, given the events I am about to tell you, I feel like putting my 7-year-old brother's name out there is a horrible idea. Therefore I'll call him Oliver. Food, glorious food. We didn't get along most of the time, but at the end of the day, we were still siblings. And he was one of my only friends who wasn't behind a screen. Even if we were a bit overbearing to each other, he was still mostly a sweetheart. Until my parents got him an iPad. Yeah, my parents saw how neglect caused me to grow up into an emotionally unstable, immature and impulsive asshole with extreme anger management issues, and thought allowing the exact same thing to happen to my brother, at an even earlier age than I was when I got hooked, would lead to better results. At this point in my life, my role in the family can best be boiled down to scapegoat. If I do so much as lightly criticize or harmlessly tease them, they will go absolutely fucking berserk. The most important of these things that gets on their nerves is whenever I catch my brother watching something inappropriate. They will typically say it's fine because he doesn't know what he's looking at. Examples of things I've caught him watching, all pre-iPad era by the way, included things such as the scene in Stranger Things with the Demogorgon tearing apart Russian prisoners, a bunch of animals humping each other from Brickleberry, various sex and murder scenes from various different pieces of media, and Rick and Morty. That latter of which, my dad threatened to beat me for unplugging the telly while Oliver was watching it, and compared it to murder. And after he got his hands on that blue-cased screen, he only encountered more weird shit that people on TikTok had uploaded for unsuspecting iPad kids to absorb. And as to be expected, my parents aren't doing shit to fix it, and whenever I try, they go apeshit. Needless to say, damn near everybody in this family is fucked in the near future. But I didn't come just to vent about shitty parents, but I felt all that context was needed to understand the headspace I was in. So why am I making this post then? Because of something that our family got the attention of. An evil thing that refuses to leave us alone, and that only me and my brother know existed until I decided to write this. Our house was undergoing repairs, so from 7 a.m. all the way to 6 p.m., my brother and I had to consistently hang out at our grandparents' house most of the day. This particular day, my brother was on the couch, playing any random Roblox game he had his eyes set on. I personally hadn't seen him play anything that bad, but I was still understandably uncomfortable about him playing it. Mostly due to the fact this is around where the talk of lawsuits for child endangerment were in full swing. And yet I had my own internet addiction. So when I wasn't checking up on him, I was doing my own thing. I was about to head to the bedroom to rest for a little bit, until my eyes caught a glimpse of what he was playing that hour of the day. A group of colorful characters surrounding his own default character. And as soon as I registered the tails and ears of the anthropomorphic animals surrounding him, the smallest yet unmistakable hint of dread drove my heartbeat to abruptly slow. And in mere seconds, that dread turned into outright horror when they made contact, and his character started turning into a similar animal-like character, accompanied by an all too recognizable sound. You see, people online are into some weird shit. One such thing is the concept of transforming into things they aren't. And after a certain RPG Maker game involving latex had boomed in popularity, creeps had come out of the woodwork and made games on Roblox based off of it. As soon as I heard that familiar sloshing sound, I snatched his iPad. He tried explaining that he was being attacked by the zombies, clearly too young to realize what the sickos behind the game were trying to peddle to him. And next thing everyone knew, I deleted Roblox, much to his dismay, and my grandparents' confusion and anger. I wanted to explain, but what the hell was I supposed to say? That the game Oliver was playing was centered around a sexual fetish where people turn into wolves made of liquid latex. I would have sounded batshit insane. Anyway, Roblox had remained off of his phone, as my family called it, until my mom came to take us back home for the night. I decided to do some digging to try and find the game my brother was playing so I could get it taken down. After a much longer search than I had anticipated, I found Zoomorphia, the page of which I have attached to this post. Now look at this page and tell me what sticks out to you the most. What is the biggest problem you can see? If you guessed the game was rated 9+, then congratulations, you have a functioning brain. Yes, the game revolving entirely around people getting their rocks off into being turned into foxes is rated 9+. I have nothing to say other than simply, wow. Fucking wow. I can't see the creator of this being a creep at all. But what about the creator? Well, it says they go by Kinderfolter. So naturally, I searched him up on social media. Eventually, I found a Twitter account. They primarily shared images of themselves cosplaying as their persona. He primarily wore a black suit with a blue tie, and these weird grubby gloves that I served to better match his mask. That creepy as hell mask. If I were to guess, he was supposed to be some kind of canine, but nothing looked right. It wasn't stylized with synthetic fluff or cartoony facial proportions. It was more like an attempt at taxidermy on an animal that might not even exist. Its snout was too long and boxy, more like a baboon than a dog. The ears were too small and curved at a weird angle, and the skin was the shade of brown of mummified bodies. But its eyes weren't off in the same way that they resembled some unknown animal. They looked too human. And to add on to that, Kinderfolter had two masks to portray himself. The first a blank emotionless stare, his most used one, and the second a smile. A smile so large that the upper lip stopped just short of touching his eyelids. And just like the eyes, the mouth felt too human, despite how deformed it was. Long blonde teeth embedded in blood red gums that glistened with what I could only guess was an attempt at replicating saliva. Now I'm a horror buff, so when I say that seeing this piece of shit's smiling face genuinely made me freeze up upon first seeing it, there is no hyperbole there. And I would have left pissed off messages to them, but I had barely any means of doing so. Their replies were turned off on all their posts, their DMs were closed, and a quote retweet wouldn't do anything with how little attention my own account got. So I cut my losses for the time being, and decided to think things over at a later date. Eventually, a few more weeks of trying to make sure my brother doesn't find degenerate content and getting yelled at for it, our house repairs were finished. I decided to get some rest after those stressful few weeks, turning on calming music as I drifted off to sleep. And then without warning, I wake up to the sound of Oliver crying, and the pressure of his body squeezing me like a starving python. I had genuinely never heard him so terrified before. My parents were at least worried about him, as was I. I held him close, trying my best to console him. After a few minutes, he finally mustered up the composure to tell me why he was so terrified. Zombie in the woods. I felt my blood run ice cold. My parents heard this, and while weirded out, thought he was just imagining things. And from their perspective, not an entirely unfounded guess, given how he said he saw a ghost in the woods after he watched some cartoon that had a plot where one of the characters became a ghost. He played a lot of Minecraft, so maybe he thought he saw a zombie from that game? No, he didn't react that violently to seeing a ghost. But part of me prayed that I was overthinking it. That the whole thing with Kinderfolter just had my brain scrambled. But then came a text message from an unknown number. Curiosity had me like a marionette on strings, so I opened it. They simply introduced themselves with a gif of some cartoon character waving while saying, "Hi." So I responded. "Who are you?" Another gif, this time of someone winking to the camera. "How the fuck did you find me? What do you want?" He had sent a video. At first, I didn't recognize where it was, as the first few seconds were merely who I assumed was Kinderfolter filming themselves rummaging through plants. But then when the camera panned up, I saw my family. They seemed none the wiser to this disgusting excuse of a human being watching them, until my brother glanced over in his direction. He promptly jumped out of wherever he was hiding, and began to chase Oliver. All the while, Kinderfolter was jabbering like some sort of moron or Neanderthal who could not have been able to pull this off. He ran as fast as his body would let him, and my parents promptly ran after him, never acknowledging the subhuman scum chasing after him. But neither Oliver or Kinderfolter stopped running, until they reached our front yard. The sick bastard stopped just short of it, allowing my brother to reach the door, and my parents to open the front door. And he slowly began to creep around the house, being very careful not to actually enter our property, until he froze at a window. My bedroom window. And I saw myself comforting Oliver, none of us realizing. I didn't reply. I rushed to my dad's computer, looking through security cam footage to see if it had caught him on camera, and what I found only horrified me more. I didn't see it. And yet at the time that should have caught it stepping onto the grass, I did see the blades shifting as though somebody was stepping on it, but no source. Before I could wrap my head around the implications, I heard a sound from my room. A new message. "You're probably going to be mad at me, but I had to see what he sent. I needed closure." I opened it up, and a new video had been sent. A blur of a leader focused into children on a playground. It slowly zoomed into the bottom of the slide, where I saw my brother come out. Not laughing, not distressed, simply sitting down and watching what the other children were doing. The final 5 seconds of the video was the most horrifying thing I have ever witnessed. The camera began shifting, and when it was fully turned around, Kinderfolter. He stared blankly into the lens, and then he smiled. He flashed that hideous massive grin that made me nearly vomit. The smile that belonged to that thing. It is not an ordinary developer on a children's platform. It is not a low-life criminal that lurks in alleyways. It is not human. And it is not wearing a fucking costume.